Good day, class. It's Sir Capistrano again, and welcome back to our Math 1 statistics. Sorry for the long time that I haven't been posting videos for our class. That is due to some works that we need to do here in our university. But for today, we're back for another lesson in our Math 1 statistics, wherein we will be talking about correlation and regression analysis. By correlation and regression analysis, I already posted some notes or some text or some readings regarding this matter. Uh, but for today, we will be formally discussing it using a video discussion. And by correlation and regression analysis, let's first define correlation and regression. So by correlation, this is actually a statistical method. Some think of it as a model, but for our class, we will treat it as a statistical method used to determine whether there are relationship between variables exists. So example of that relationship that we may encounter is the shelf life of food versus the average room temperature. So, kumbaga dito sa ano na to, ano yung relationship nung shelf life or yung tagal na bago ma-expire ang isang food versus dun sa usual na temperature dun sa room kung saan mo siya in-store. So, isa pang pwedeng relationship na tingnan natin dyan is the length ng review nyo para sa isang exam versus dun sa score na nakukuha nyo sa exam. So that is the variables, yung tinitingnan natin doon. Yung variables natin para dito sa first example ay yung shelf life ng food at yung average room temperature. And for that other example, ang variables natin doon ay yung ating length ng time ng review and yung score na pwedeng makuha natin sa exam. So for correlation, it consists of random observation of variables describing a given population. So basically, when we are talking about correlation, we will be examining the observation, and in some sense, in our definitions of terms, we will be talking about the samples. We will be just looking into the samples. It also refers to the variation of two random variables from independence. Ang ibig sabihin lang nito, independent ba or hindi yung dalawang variables sa isa't isa or dependent ba sila? May dependent, o halimbawa yung isa, kung habang tumataas ba yung value ng isang variable, tumataas ba or bumababa yung isa, or walang specific relation, walang nakikitang specific na trend na masasabi natin. And for the other one, we have regression analysis. By regression analysis, this is actually a statistical method used to describe the nature of relationship between variables. So by nature of relationship, it can be linear, it can be non-linear, or by non-linear, it can be logarithmic or exponential, or the correlation has a positive or negative relationship, or no relationship at all. So that is our regression analysis. And but for our class, we will be focusing more on the linear regression. Kasi ito yung pinaka-laging gamit wherein using that linear regression, we are able to predict the behavior of our variables depending on the regression analysis that we conducted on those paired variables. By paired variables, dalawang random samples of our variables that is paired to each other. Okay? So in correlation, actually, we will be using this diagram. So in correlation, actually use scatter diagram because it is a relation. It is useful tool for checking the assumptions in regression analysis. It is actually constructed to visually infer or check the relationship of two variables, and also it saves time by looking at the diagram to lessen the analysis. So if the assumptions are not met, further analysis can be applied or on the data gathered. So basically, this is just parang ano lang natin, yung ating Cartesian plane wherein we have here paired variables. We have the x variables and the y variables. And for each point, meron tayong certain na ordered pair. So, for example, dito, for this dot, we have a value of 10 for, and for our x variable and 2 for our y variables. Basically, this is an ordered pair wherein we have here 10, 2. That would also work for the other points. For example, hanap tayo ng hindi nasa kalagitnaan. Okay, alam mo, for this one, we have here x value which is 40 and a y value which is 4. So that is how our scatter diagram works. We just need to plot the x part. So parang pupunta ka muna horizontally dun sa x, then sa y. Which is yung halimbawa rito, flat papuntang 10, then pataas papuntang 2. So that is how we will be constructing our scatter diagram. We can actually use our Excel to construct scatter diagram. So you just need to select the data wherein you need to put all the x values in one column and put all the y values in one column. Then, ayun, automatically, makikreate na ng Excel yung ating scatter diagram. But basically for correlation analysis or correlation, we can use the scatter plot to predict the regression line. So basically kung dito, pwedeng magkaroon tayo dyan ng best fit line or makikita natin walang specific na line na sinusunod itong ano natin, graph natin. But for regression, we may have here a line that may looks like this. Ganyan, curved siya. So non-linear siya. So in this type or these examples of non-linear graph, we can actually use the other types of regression analysis. But in that, let's move on to dun sa sinasabing further analysis natin na hindi tayo gumagamit ng ating scatter diagram. So, one of those further analysis is actually the Pearson product moment correlation or simply the Pearson R correlation. So, ang ating Pearson R correlation is actually founded by Carl Pearson. So, one of the early mathematicians, not too early. Hindi naman siya batchmate ni na Aristotle or ni na Galileo. Okay, mostly sa time siguro ni René Descartes. So, it is founded by Carl Pearson. It is most widely used in statistics to measure the degree of relationship between the linear related variables. By linear related variables, that those are our x and y variables. So correlation coefficient is defined as the covariance divided by the standard deviation of the variables. So by standard deviation of the variables, ito yung nandito sa baba. And yung covariance natin ay dito sa taas. So in some way, we can write this Pearson R as, sasabihin natin, the covariance of x and y over the standard deviation of x times the standard deviation of y. So that is the other way of writing our Pearson R correlation. So that is our Pearson product movement correlation. So sabi dito, computed values must be between -1 and +1. So kung may na-compute kayong values that are larger than or smaller than -1 or larger than +1, maaaring may error dun sa inyong computation. So, punta tayo sa computation. So, ito pala muna. We have here the strength of relationships of our correlation coefficients. So these are the interpretations of our R values. So if you have R values that is equal or your R value is equal to 0, it just means that you have no correlation or no relationship at all. So if you have values that na mula 0.01 hanggang 0.20, you have here very low correlation and almost negligible relationship. Also, we have here from positive and -21 to 40, you have a slight correlation, but uh, definite but small relationship. So we have here moderate relation from 0.41 to 0.70. And we have high correlation mula naman sa 0.71 hanggang 0.90. And we have a very high correlation or very dependable relationship from 0.91 to 0.99. Okay, and we have a perfect correlation and a perfect relationship if we have our values that are equal to +1 or -1. So, kung ilalagay natin sa scatter plot yung ating mga R values na yan, ganito yung magiging itsura niya. So, for R is equal to +1, we have here a perfect positive correlation. So we have there this a straight line dun sa ating scatter plot. And we have here a negative correlation naman if we have a perfect negative correlation if we have -1. And we have here zero correlation para naman dun sa ating R is equal to 0. And we have here a nonlinear correlation example, right? And in that, we are still focusing on our linear correlation. Okay? So in that, let's have here our computation of R, or the correlation coefficient. So I have here an example, and the example says that the owner of a chain of fruit shake store would like to study the correlation between the atmospheric temperature, meaning yung init lang sa paligid, and the sales during the summer season. So a random sample of 12 days is selected with the results as follow. So for day 1, we have here a temperature which is 79 degrees Fahrenheit with total sales of 147. So that is one of our paired uh, unit or paired variables. And we have here 76 for 143, 78 for 147, 84 for 168, and so on. So, kumuha siya ng 12 days. At dun sa 12 days na yun, kinuha niya yung average atmospheric temperature. Then, kinuha niya yung sales during that time. Okay? And if we are to plot this in a scatter plot, it would look like this. So, somehow, makikita natin, pwede tayong gumawa dyan ng line. Pwede tayong magkaroon ng trend line na sasabihin natin, meron tayong high positive or very high positive correlation. So, para ma-quantify natin yun ng maayos, syempre, we need to compute. Kailangan natin i-compute yung Pearson R mismo para definite tayo or alam talaga natin yung value ng relationship or ng correlation natin. So, for the correlation coefficient, we will be using the formula stated above, wherein we have to get the covariance of our x and y, and that covariance is equal to our n times the summation of the product of x and y minus the product of the sum of x and the sum of y. And we will divide that with the product of the standard deviation of x and y. So that is given by our that formula, wherein we will just divide the covariance with the square root of those variables. So basically, gagawa lang ulit tayo ng graph ng table. Where in the table, we'll have headings na ating x square, ating y square, and yung ating x times y. So we will have values to substitute para dito sa mga to. Okay? So I then go ahead and constructed that graph. So we have here a graph tuloy, table wherein we have here headings x square, y square, and x times y. So for that values, compute lang tayo. Pwede nyo gawin ay pause nyo muna yung video para ma-compute nyo yung mga yan. So, going ahead, So for the summation of x, we actually have here 1029. Okay? And burahin ko lang yung 2. Sorry. So we have 1029 for our summation of x. By summation of x, I just added 79 plus 76 plus 78, 84 plus 90 plus 83 and so on. And for the summation of y, we have here, sulat natin. This is summation of x. For the summation of y, we will have here 2,115. Okay? And kung nag-compute kayo para dun sa x squared, so bali, magkakaroon lang kayo dyan ng 79 times 79, which is 6,241. And we will have here 5,776. We'll have here 6,084. So I'll go ahead para dito. 6, so 90 times 90, that will be 8,100. I have here 6,889. We'll have here 8,649 and so on. That is 8,836, 9,409. We'll have here 7,225. We'll have here 7,744. And we'll have here 6,724. That has a sum of, so yung ating sum of x squared will be equal to 88,733. Okay? And skip na lang tayo dun sa computations. Hopefully, tama yung makukuha niya. We'll have here, summation of y will be 380,887. Okay? So, paano nakuha yan? Kukunin lang ulit yung sum ng y squares natin. So, paano nakuha yung y square? You just need to square the y here. So, 147 times 147, magkakaroon ka dyan 21,609. And 143 times 143, that will be 20,449, and so on and so forth. And for the summation of xy, gagawin nyo naman 79 times 147. Tapos ganun ulit dito, 76 times 143. Lalagay nyo yung lahat dito. And for the summation of x times y, we will have here 183,222. So that will be our summations na gagamitin natin para dun sa ating Pearson product moment correlation. Okay? So in that, our R square, or R pala, will be uh, 12 times the summation of x times y, which is 88,733, minus the summation of x, which is our 1,029. Then summation of y, which is 2,115. That will be divided by, sulat ko muna yung mga nasa loob ng square root natin. So we'll have here 12 times the summation of x squared, which is 88,733, minus the summation of x, which is 1,029 square. Okay, then bracket dyan. Multiply natin yan, di magkakasya. No? But anyway, we'll have here 12 times the summation of our y square, which is 380,887. Minus lang natin dyan yung ating summation of y. Ang summation of y natin will be 2,115. You just need to square that in bracket. And for that value, yung sa baba, you just need to get the square root of that. Sige nga, pakicompute muna class kung ano yung makukuha yung value. So, kung calculator ang gagamitin nyo at cycle ang gagamitin nyo, we will have here a value which is 0.0 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001. 0.001 927,057, and so on. Basically, you can just write that at 0.93. And positive 0.93, we will have here a positive high correlation, and that is also a high relationship. Should very high yata ito dun sa natin. So that is very high. Okay? So that is our Pearson R Pearson product moment, or yung tinatawag natin Pearson R correlation. Okay? So that is how we compute our Pearson R correlation. So we're already done with the half of our analysis, wherein nagkaroon na tayo dito ng computation ng ating correlation. And in that, we can actually extend our understanding of this correlation. Kasi dito, makikita lang natin class, na mayroong high relationship. Merong high relationship, or high correlation, yung ating atmospheric temperature, at yung ating number of sales. So to further analyze this relationship, we can actually go ahead and talk about what we call linear regression. So by linear regression, ito ay isang type ng tinatawag nating regression analysis. And by using linear regression, we will be able to predict the values of one variable based on the other paired variable. Ibig sabihin, halimbawa, kung babalikan natin yung data natin kanina, kung makikita natin dito, meron tayong x and y values. So, halimbawa ganito, gusto mong mangyayari na, ano kaya ang mangyayari? Or ano kaya yung magiging sales kapag 100 degrees Fahrenheit yung temperature? Or pwedeng the other way around. Ano kaya yung temperature kung na ang mangyayari ay 100 lang yung magiging sales nung ano natin, nung ice cream shop. So paano na kaya natin gagawin yan? Ay, ice cream ba to or shake? Shake yata ito. So we will be using this linear regression. So by linear regression analysis produces estimate for the slope and the intercept of the linear equation, predicting an outcome variable y based on the values of predictor variable x. In symbols, we will have here y is equal to a plus bx. So in here, a is actually our y-intercept, and b is our slope. By slope, kung sabi natin kanina, kung magkakaroon tayo ng ganitong plot, usually pag sinabi natin maggagawa tayo ng tinatawag nating best fit line, magkakaroon tayo dito ng linya, na yung linya na yan, yun na yung ating linear line na nagpe-predict or nagka-characterize ng ating correlation or ng ating scatter plot. So to have a better view of that, we'll be actually using these relevant equations. We have here our Pearson product moment correlation, and we have here the equation for our slope, wherein our slope is just the R, or our Pearson R correlation, multiplied to the quotient of the standard deviation of y over the standard deviation of x. And para naman dun sa ating y-intercept, our y-intercept will simply be our the mean of our y minus the product of our slope and the mean of our x. Okay? So hopefully hindi pa naman nalilimutan na kung paano tayo mag-compute ng standard deviation at saka ng ating mean. So, we will still be using those formulas. Kung maalala, ang mean, you just need to get the sum of our variables, then you just need to divide it by the number of samples. And for the standard deviation, meron tayong dalawang formulas para dyan. Pwede nyo gamitin yung sum of x squares. Pwede nyo rin naman gamitin yung mean para or yung yung mean minus the x values or the y values. So, maalin doon ay pwedeng mag-work. Okay? So, tingnan muna natin yung scatter plot. So, balikan lang natin yung scatter plot natin kanina. So, balik gagawin nga lang natin, ipa-plot lang natin lahat ng x versus the y values. So, then, pwede tayong gumawa ng tinatawag nating best fit line. So, as you can see here, I have here a dotted line. Yung dotted line na yan yung sinasabi nating best fit line or yung tinatawag nating trend line. By trend line, this is actually our regression line. So by regression line, we are characterizing the pairing of our variables or our data array uh, using a line or a straight line. So that is our best fit line. Okay. So yan. Ano nang gagawin natin ngayon? So bali para dyan sa best fit line, we just need to get the equation of that line. Yung line nga na yan, bali ang magiging equation ng line na yan ay yung ating y. Yan ay equal dun sa ating y-intercept, which is a, plus yung ating slope, which is b, multiplied by the x value. So, para dyan, para makuha yung equation ng line na yan, we just need to get our y-intercept and our slope. So, in that, here's the computation. So, bali kanina, kinuha ko na yung nakuha na natin yung ating Pearson R correlation. Tapos, meron na tayong R value. Meron din tayong summation of x's and summation of our y squares. So, summation of x, summation of y, summation of x square, and summation of y square. So, bali dito, kailangan lang natin munang makuha yung ating mga values na kailangan natin wherein we need our x bar, we need our y bar or yung mean ng y, mean ng x, we need our standard deviation of x, and we need the standard deviation of y. So in here, using these values, pwede na nating magawa yun. So para dun sa ating mean of x, is just yung ating sum of x's, which is 1029, divided by our number of days or number of samples, which is 12. So if you are to compute that, that will be actually 85.75. And for our y, we'll be using this summation. So we'll have 2,115 divided by 12. So that will be 176.25. So already we have here our x's or our x bar and y bar. And for the standard deviation, kung maalala nyo, paano nga ulit kinocompute ang standard deviation? One of the formulas can be summation of x squared, para dun sa x, kasi x yung gagamitin natin, minus the summation of x, tapos i-square lang natin yung summation of x na yun, divide lang natin ng ating n, tapos yung buong yan, divide lang natin ng n minus 1. So, yan yung ating standard deviation for x. So, basically, gagamitin mo lang yung mga values na to. Itong ating 88,733 at yung 1,029 tsaka yung 12 para i-replace yung mga values na yan. And I just go ahead and computed for the standard deviation. And the standard deviation for x is actually 6.72. Okay? And for the standard deviation of y, same concept. Papalitan nyo lang yung x ng y. So, gagamitin nyo yung summation of y square and gagamitin nyo yung summation of y. And in that, makakompute kayo ng standard deviation which is 27.17. Okay? So, paano na yung sa mga sa mga values ng ating slope at standard deviation? Since kailangan natin yung value ng slope para makuha yung ating value ng y-intercept, ganito yung mangyayari. We first need to compute for our b or yung tinatawag nating slope. At sabi natin kanina, ang b ay equal sa ating Pearson R multiplied to the quotient ng ating sy, which is ito, over our sx. So that will be, paano na ba ito? So we have here 0.93 or 927057 multiplied to our 27.17 over 6.72. And if you are to compute that, we will have here a value that is close to 3.75. Okay? And for our y-intercept, which is A, bali ang mangyayari lang, we need our y or yung ating mean ng y minus our b, which is 3.75. Multiply lang natin yan dun sa ating x bar. So we will have there 1.7625 minus our b, which is 3.75, multiplied to our 85.75. Okay? And in here, if you are to compute this, this will be actually equal to negative 145.28. So, by that, meron na tayo actually linear equation. So, bale, kailangan lang natin dyan ay yung ating b and yung ating a, yung b which is our slope, and y which is our y-intercept. So what will happen here is we will just use the general formula, which is y is equal to a plus b times x. So basically, we will have here an equation which is y is equal to negative 145.28 plus 3.75 times our x. So this will be our linear equation. Right? So baka may mga nagtataka sa inyo. Sir, wala bang mas madaling way para i-compute yan or para makuha yan? Meron actually. Pwede kayong gumamit ng Excel, pwede kayong gumamit ng graphs dito sa ating PowerPoint. So, iiwan ko na lang sa inyo kung paano nyo mismo gagawin yan. But for now, this is how we compute for the linear equation by hand. So basically, you need the values of your summation of x's, summation of y's, your r value, summation of x squared, summation of y squared. You need your mean of x, you need your mean of y. You should have the standard deviation of x and the standard deviation of y. You need to compute for the slope, which is equal to our Pearson R times standard deviation of y divided by the standard deviation of x. Also, you need to compute for the y-intercept, which is a, which is equal to your mean of y minus uh, the product of your slope, which is b, multiplied to the mean of your x. So basically, that is how you compute by hand your linear equation. So, in that, ang ibig lang sabihin, the equation of our best fit line is actually y is equal to negative 145.28 plus 3.7496x. So, makikita nyo rito, yung sa pag-input nito, gumamit actually ako nung ating best fit line or yung ating trend line dun sa ating Microsoft Office. Which is by Microsoft Office, ginamit ko lang yung graphing function ng ating PowerPoint para makuha yung trend line na yan at yung equation ng line na yan. Okay? But for the house, kung paano gagawin yan, hayaan ko munang kayo mag-discover kung paano gagawin yan. And in that, sabi natin kanina, gusto nating malaman kung ano kaya yung magiging sales kapag yung temperature natin is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And as you may see here, degrees Fahrenheit or yung temperature, that will actually be our X. And kung babalikan nyo kasi yung data natin kanina, wala dyang X or wala dyang temperature which is equal to 100. Ang highest natin dyan ay 97. So, ano kaya yung magiging sales kapag 100 degrees Fahrenheit yung X natin? So, basically, ang gagawin lang natin, we will be using this formula. And that formula, in that formula, we have there the value of y which is unknown. Then we'll have there our y-intercept which is equal to 145.28 plus 3.75 na lang gamitin natin. We'll have here 3.75 times x which is actually equal to 100. So, upon computation, our y here will be equal to 145.28. Then we'll have here 375 times 100. So, that will be actually equal to 375. And we have here negative 145 plus 375. Teka, yan ang hindi ko pa nako-compute. So, we'll have there negative 145.28 plus 375. So we will have here sales which is equal to 229.72, which is approximately 230. So by that, pwede nating isulat yung ating conclusion using regression analysis. We will have the sales, hindi we. The sales will be 230 when temperature is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay? So that is how we use or make sense of our regression analysis. O pag nakuha na natin yung trend line, or nakuha na natin yung ating equation for that trend line or yung ating linear equation from our linear regression, pwede na tayong mag-interpolate or extrapolate ng data. By this one, we actually extrapolated, nakuha natin kung or na-determine natin kung gaano karami yung sales na pwede nating makuha when the temperature is 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is actually higher than most of our observations. So in that is how we make sense of our linear regression. So in this video, we already talked about correlation, how to compute for the Pearson R, how to get the regression line or yung tinatawag nating best fit line wherein kinuha din natin yung equation ng ating best fit line. And in that, we use that linear equation to further or to extrapolate or guess or determine the number of sales na hindi kasama or yung the value of y na hindi kasama yung value of x dun sa original data natin. So, that is correlation and linear regression. And for your quiz, you will be doing this example. So I think this is our first quiz for our finals period. So we have here BSF students are studying the relationship of the depth of the fishing spot and the number of fishes caught in the area. A sample of 8 combinations were gathered. So we have here 8 combinations for the depth and the number of fishes. So you can treat the depth as your x variable and the number of fishes as your y variable. Uh, Here are your assignments or the part of the quiz. You need to construct the scatter plot of the data. That will be 5 points. You will need to find the correlation, coefficient of correlation and conclude the relationship of depth and the number of fishes caught. That will be another 5 points. And for the last part, we will have here linear regression. Using linear regression, determine the number of fishes caught in the area with a depth of 2 meters. So that will be all for today. Hopefully, may nakuha tayo sa araw na to. So in that, I will be ending this video. Thank you and have a great day, class. Bye-bye.